If you thought that phishing attacks were something that only non technical Luddite users fall for, you will be very wrong. Recently, there was an attack that was identified by the Dropbox team that connected Dropbox, GitHub, and Circle CI in this weird, indelible sort of attack that happened specifically against technology people, developers, DevOps, so on, whoever you consider technology people who have access to GitHub resources. Now, what happened here was that attackers set up phishing sites that looked like Circle CI. Now, Circle CI is a very popular CI/CD tool that is used to build code, and it's often used along with GitHub. Now, you can log into Circle CI using your GitHub credentials. So, what the attackers did was set up fake looking Circle CI login prompts on circle-ci.com and many other domains that kind of look like Circle CI, but were not really Circle CI, obviously. Now, attackers set up these phishing sites on these very similar sounding, nearly typo squatted domains. And what they did, they sent phishing messages to developers, and developers thought, okay, they were actually logging into Circle CI, but they were actually logging into their GitHub account on Circle CI. So the developers actually thought they were logging into their GitHub account on Circle CI, but they were actually giving their credentials, obviously, to the attacker. And the attackers were pretty smart because they were able to pass on these credentials to GitHub, even if the account was protected with a mobile TOTP. So even if it was protected with the TOTP, they were able to pass this on to GitHub, get the TOTP prompt, the user would enter the TOTP, and then they would gain access to that developer's GitHub account. So this happened to Dropbox, and because of this, internal APIs of Dropbox was accessed because an API token was compromised, because a developer's account on GitHub was compromised. Through that, the attackers were able to identify an API token that gave access to some of Dropbox's internal APIs. Now, Dropbox says that their user data was not affected, which is possibly true because they've written a very detailed incident response note on how they actually detected it and how they warned the users affected. But this can mean pretty important things. First of all, this can mean that attackers today are trying to do ecosystem things or ecosystem attacks, where they're trying to compromise an app or a popular application through their developers or source code. Remember, developers are all powerful in a technology company. So by compromising Dropbox's developers, they're able to get a lot of access into Dropbox's source code potentially. And through this, they're trying to funnel their way into either the source code, do malicious things with the source code, or malicious builds, or compromise the CI system and add maybe potential malicious updates to that. And this, while it didn't happen necessarily to Dropbox, this is a sign of things to come. This is what is likely to happen with a lot of technology companies getting compromised in this specific way. So what do you have to do? First of all, you need to train your developers to figure out what it is, and you need to train them on security awareness, obviously, just like you train any of your employees. Developers are not above getting scammed by this sort of stuff. And also, additionally, implement multi-factor authentication wherever possible. If you can do this with a hardware token, that's even better, but definitely ensure that multi-factor authentication is enabled on all your developer accounts, especially for key services like GitHub or Circle CI or anything like that. So this would be two immediate things that you can do to protect yourself against these sort of phishing attacks. Stay safe out there. Thank you, AppSecEngineers.